It's so rare for a piece of media, film, television, or otherwise, to resonate with me so strongly that it emotionally affects me to the point where I cannot do anything that isn't directly related to thinking about it for a few days after watching it. I was so excited for this series not only because of the critical and audience acclaim, but also because it's one of those rare times that I see something and think to myself, this is exactly something that I would like to make. The story follows a 17-year-old boy named James who believes that he is a psychopath and chooses his classmate Alyssa as his first human victim. When Alyssa suggests that the two of them run away from home together, he decides to postpone her impending murder and the two go along with what is a Bonnie and Clyde-esque road trip on their escape to freedom. Both characters deviate from the standard blank slate characters that you get in most mainstream media, but at the same time they manage to be so relatable. Everyone who has ever been a teenager can see some part of themselves in Alyssa or James or both of them, even though they both are kind of nuts. This is the perfect nihilistic black comedy romance teenage drama. This is essentially a Tarantino film made about teenagers for teenagers, and in fact there were even a few things that I personally interpreted as references to Pulp Fiction, such as Alyssa's haircut and the dance sequence. Alex Lawther and Jessica Barden were absolutely fantastic, and I will be shocked if neither one of them gets a Golden Globe or an Emmy nomination. While casting of people in their mid-20s as teenagers is a pet peeve of mine, I don't really think it affected my ability to enjoy this series overall. Most people wouldn't even believe you if you told them that the actress who plays the 17-year-old Alyssa is 25 in real life, and I don't really have all too much trouble believing James to be 17 either. The soundtrack was also great. There were a lot of really cool songs that added value to the scenes that they were in, which is what a soundtrack is supposed to do. The series runs at 8 20-minute episodes, and for that reason would almost benefit from being cut together into a 2-hour and 40-minute film, and in fact I think I'm going to do just that myself and watch it again to see how it flows together. Now, despite how much I love this show, I actually do have quite a few complaints. First of all, why the fuck would you use asterisks to censor the title of your show? Your show is called The End of the Fucking World. This is not the promotional material or the trailer or the display title on Netflix. Your title is literally appearing within your show which contains multiple uses of the word fuck, and you're still choosing to censor it. Now, on my first watch, I kind of found the series to be a little disappointing. Without spoiling too much, you basically fly through the first 3 episodes like an arrow on fire and build up to this climax at the end of episode 3 that leaves you thinking, holy fuck, surely things are only going to get crazier from here, right? Nope. Because after that scene, it really just puts its brakes on and kind of slows down into this romancy teen drama kind of thing, and I needed to watch it again to understand why it played out that way and to make peace with that fact. I also really didn't like the score. Basically, 600 times a fucking episode, you'd get this.
Oh, sorry.
Eunice.
She thinks he still does. So we move out there and we wait for them to
Bullshit playing over every single fucking scene, and honestly, it was so awful that it made every scene that it was in genuinely difficult to enjoy. I don't think that the piece is so terrible on its own, it's just the fact that it was so lazily dropped into the background of almost every scene in the entire show, and it was so fucking irritating. I wasn't a fan of the annoying little flash-forwardy cuts, and I feel like the series could have benefited from omitting them, but I do feel as though the flashbacks to when they were children worked pretty nicely. Although I was a little confused by their decision to change the aspect ratio. Initially, I thought that the flashbacks to when they were children were in 4:3 because that was the standard aspect ratio back when they would have been that age, but then it turned out that I was just reading too much into it because other more recent flashbacks were then also presented in that same aspect ratio. My only complaint about the actual writing was that they kind of introduced and then immediately abandoned the idea that James could potentially be asexual or unable to feel pain. Basically, they had a scene where he described how he put his hand into a deep fryer when he was a kid to see if he was capable of feeling pain, and you're like, oh yeah, that works because people like him have a track record of doing that kind of shit, and then later he mentions that he masturbates once a week for medical purposes, so then immediately as an audience member you're thinking, okay, maybe this guy is a psychopath and he isn't capable of experiencing pleasure or pain, which is why we were shown these two things, or maybe he's asexual and he also can't feel pain or something, but then the show just kind of drops it as if nothing ever happened. Like, is James asexual? Can he feel pain? I'm still waiting for an answer. Let's talk about the ending. The first time I saw it, it just really pissed me off. I felt as if taking you on this 160-minute journey that ends with you cutting to black and possibly killing our main character like that was just a huge middle finger to your audience. Like, I would have almost have rather just had a shot of James's head exploding and then cut to black for some clarity. However, upon my second viewing, I kind of understood where they were coming from, and now I actually quite like the ending. First of all, the comic upon which this series is based leaves the ending ambiguous anyway, and not following suit would be a bold decision on the behalf of whoever wrote the show. Secondly, the entire entire point was that James's character arc was him going from believing he was a psychopath and plotting to murder Alyssa, to him realizing that he isn't a psychopath at all and falling in love with another human being for the first time. He knew that if he took the gun and ran off that they would shoot him. He's literally gone from wanting to kill Alyssa for the thrill of it to loving her so much that he's willing to sacrifice his own life to save her. Whether or not he actually died is of course left indefinite, but I actually like to think that he did die because to me, sacrificing himself for Alyssa in a way is the perfect end to his character arc. Of course, with popularity comes talks of a second season, and as much as I love this series, I don't think that it's a very good idea. There's only one book which this series has been adapted from, which means that the second season would have the writers making up everything from scratch, which doesn't exactly have the best track record. It came into this world and started and ended so perfectly that I just feel like another season would feel forced and unnecessary. Of course, if they did make another one, I sure as hell would watch it, and I'm sure that it would be pretty good, but as is the case with most of these kinds of things, it won't be as exceptional or as original as the first.
Laughing on the outside, crying on the inside, 'cause I'm so in love with you. They see me night and day.